Most people assume that a garage conversion looks like a converted garage. They picture concrete flooring, a low ceiling, maybe a utility sink still in the corner. Something that looks like a compromise. What you're looking at right now is a garage conversion. 420 square feet. And I want you to really look at it because this is what the right design can do. I'm Gil Weissman, founder of GoEDU Construction. And one of the most common questions I get from homeowners is, should I convert my garage or should I build something new from the ground up? It's a real question and the answer is genuinely different depending on your property, your goals, and your budget. Today, I'm going to walk you through both options honestly, what each one costs, what each one delivers, and how to know which one's right for you. Let's go. Let me start with a garage conversion because we're actually standing in one, and I want to use this space to show you what's actually possible. This unit is in Highland Park. Homeowners had a small backyard and didn't want to lose any more of it to a new structure. The existing garage footprint, 420 square feet, was what they had to work with. That was the constraint. So a conversion was the path. Not because it was cheaper, but because it was the right fit for this lot and this family. It's a studio being used as an office with a Murphy bed. One eating, sleeping, and working space that works. The reason it works is the design choice to make the back and side walls almost entirely glass. There's light coming in all day. The space feels open and generous, even at this size. When you're working within a tight footprint, the design decisions aren't nice to have. They're the whole game. Now, I want to address something right up front, because there's a widespread assumption about garage conversions that is worth correcting. Most people assume that a garage conversion, it's going to be automatically cheaper than brand new construction. That's not always true. In fact, in our experience here in LA, it's quite often the opposite. Here's why. Most garages in Los Angeles were built in the 30s, 40s, or 50s. They were not built to today's residential code standards. When you try to retrofit one of those structures, bringing the foundation up to code, reinforcing walls, reworking the framing, you're fighting the building the whole way. The surprises add up. We've seen straightforward-looking conversions become expensive and complicated projects precisely because of what was hiding inside the existing structure. That's why a large proportion of our conversions usually preserve one wall, usually for setback or permitting reasons, and we tear down all the other walls and build everything else from scratch. It's simpler, it's more predictable, and the end result is better. If you can start from scratch, do it. So what is the genuine advantage of a conversion? Two things. First, setbacks. Because you're working with an existing footprint, the city typically allows you to build closer to property lines than you could with a brand new detached structure. On a tight LA lot, that difference can be the whole project. It's why this unit exists at all. Second, in the rare case where a garage is newer, generally structurally sound, and actually built to standard, yes, you have a real head start, and you'll feel it in your timeline and your budget. But in Greater LA, that's the exception, not the rule. Now, let me be straight with you about when a garage conversion doesn't work, because it's not always the right answer, and I'd rather tell you now than after you've made a decision. First, size. A typical attached two-car garage gives you somewhere between 400 and 500 square feet to work with, and the one-car garage is often less than that. If your goal is a two-bedroom unit or a space that needs to feel genuinely generous, a garage conversion may not give you enough room. You can do a lot with 420 square feet. This space proves that, but you have to be realistic about what the footprint allows. Second, if you need your garage, this sounds obvious, but it's worth saying it. A garage conversion is permanent. If parking matters to you, or if you use the garage as functional storage, you need to think carefully about what you're giving up. Third, not every garage is well positioned on the lot for a conversion. If your garage sits awkwardly relative to the main house with no natural light, no good sightline, no access to outdoor space, a conversion can feel tight no matter how well it's designed. That's a site assessment conversation, and it's one of the first things we look at. And fourth, when the existing structure is genuinely problematic. Termite damage, a roof that needs full replacement, framing that doesn't meet code. Sometimes the most honest advice is to tear it down and start fresh. Just this week, we did a site visit in Burbank. The homeowners wanted to convert their garage, but it had significant termite damage. The roof needed full replacement, on top of other code issues. We told them straight out, it makes no sense to keep the structure. We're going to tear it down and build exactly what you need from scratch. And that will cost them less than salvage and try to retrofit what's already there. That's a conversation that we really have a lot of times with most homeowners. So when does new construction make more sense? Let me walk you through it. The most obvious case is when you don't have a garage or when your existing structure isn't worth keeping. If you're starting from a blank slate, or if a site assessment tells you the garage is going to cause more problems than it solves, new construction is almost always the cleaner path. The second case is size. If you need 700, 800, 1,000 square feet, if you're building for a family member who needs real space, or a unit that can command top rental income, new construction gives you the square footage a conversion footprint can't. The third case is layout freedom. When you build from the ground up, you design for the site and the goals from scratch. You're not inheriting the dimensions of an existing structure. You choose where the windows go, where the entry is, how the living space relates to outdoor space. That design freedom can produce a better result, especially when the existing garage is poorly positioned on the lot. And the fourth case is when keeping the garage adds more value than converting it. Not every property benefits from losing garage space. In some neighborhoods, a garage is a real amenity to future buyers, to tenants, to the way the property functions day to day. Sometimes the better investment is building a new detached ADU in another part of the yard and keeping the garage intact. On cost, I want to be direct here because the assumption that new construction is always more expensive than a conversion is wrong. The cost of a project is determined by the size you're building, the site conditions, and the quality of the work, not by whether it's technically called a conversion or new construction. A 400 square foot new construction and a 400 square foot garage conversion can land at the same price, or a conversion can actually be more expensive if the current structure is fighting you the whole way. So how do you decide? Here are the questions that are going to drive the answer, because it's not about which type costs more. It's about the specific lot, your specific goals, and what the actual structure can do for you, because it's not about which type costs more. First, do you need setbacks? If your lot is tight and you need to build close to a property line, a conversion, working with an existing legal footprint may be your only path to getting the space you want. That was the situation here in Highland Park. The lot simply didn't have room for new detached structure without giving up the entire backyard. The conversion made it possible. Second, what condition is the existing structure actually in? This is the question most homeowners can't answer without a professional looking at it. And it's the one that matters most for cost. A structurally sound, newer garage is a real asset. A mid-century garage with deferred maintenance and code issues is often a liability. You need to know which one you have before you make any decisions. Third, does keeping a garage add long-term value to your property? For some properties in some neighborhoods, yes, it does. If that's your situation, look at whether you have room to build a new detached ADU elsewhere in the lot rather than converting the garage. Fourth, Is there a historical or preservation requirement involved? Some districts require that an existing structure be maintained, or at least that one will be preserved, as a condition for permitting. That's a specific situation, and it's one where a conversion isn't a choice, it's a requirement. And fifth, what are you building it for, and how big does it need to be? If the goal is a generous rental unit or a real home for a family member and your garage footprint can't support that, new construction on a different part of the lot is worth the conversation. The answer is different for every property, which is why we always start with a site visit. Not a phone call, not a ballpark number, an actual look at your lot before we recommend anything. Now, before I close, I want to come back to something because I think it matters more than the question of whether it's a conversion versus a new structure. What makes this space work isn't the construction type, it's the design. The decision to make the back and side wall almost entirely glass, the vintage look appliances that are actually brand new, the color choices that make the space feel warm and intentional rather than utilitarian, the bathroom that manages to feel roomy and serene in a 420 square foot unit. None of those decisions cost more than making bad one. It costs thought up front before breaking ground. That's the investment that turns a tight footprint into a space that someone genuinely wants to live in. Whether you build a conversion or a new construction ADU, the quality of the outcome is almost entirely determined by the quality of the design thinking that goes into it. The construction type is the vehicle. Design is what makes it a home. If you're trying to decide whether you need a garage conversion or a brand new structure, or you're not even sure what type of structure your property will support, that's exactly the type of conversation that our free consultation is designed to have. We look at your property, assess what's possible to do, and give you an honest recommendation, not based on what's easier for us, but what is best for you. The link to book is in the description. Takes 2 minutes, no obligation. And if you want to go deeper on what ADUs actually cost or how the permit process works in LA, I've got videos on both. Subscribe so you don't miss them. I'm Gil Weissman with Go ADU Construction. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.